Hi everyone, it's Chelsea from Smoldering Serpents. I am posting the second part of the North American rat snake video today, and we're actually starting with something that is not a North American rat snake, just because I wanted to share these guys with you. These are a couple of our baby black milk snakes from this year, and I actually wanted to highlight the variation because we got some really different looking babies this year than we have in the past. Now this one's fairly typical, a little bit darker than average, but well within the normal range. Now, this boy right here is the darkest black milk hatchling we've ever produced. And he looks a little bit lighter on camera yet than he does in person, but basically the tipping that you see on his scales where you can see the little black flecking, as black milks grow, they gradually get more of that black tipping, and their yellow or white and red pattern gradually fades, and by about 2 years old, they're typically jet black. So they can hatch with various amounts of black already, but this guy hatched with quite a bit. I don't know if he's going to turn jet black sooner or what, but for now he's a really beautiful looking hatchling. I honestly am kind of blown away with how pretty he is. So yeah, this guy is our darkest, and then this guy here is also a darker one, which I thought was pretty neat. He is the most personable little guy of the clutch, I think. We actually got quite a few feisty ones this year, which is interesting because they're typically very laid back. And I say feisty, and I certainly don't mean like they're difficult to handle or interact with, but let's just say we have one female who is the first baby black milk ever to bite me defensively, and also the first baby black milk to strike off tongs for her very first meal and every meal since then. So it's really impressive. Having a bit of an attitude is not a bad thing. I actually prefer when hatchlings come out with a little spiciness, because typically that means they'll start eating confidently sooner. But even the ones that are very laid back this year have, for the most part, been really good eaters. We only have 2 holdouts, which are going to take a little bit of work to get established, but the rest of them are all eating really well. And this little guy, this is number 11, and he was the last out of the egg, and his personality is so sweet. He will come right out of his tub onto my hand all on his own, and he is just laid back in every sense. And a great eater too. He'll eat right in front of me, no problem. So he's gonna make a really great pet. And it's just so much fun to see these little babies and see their personalities, and I think everyone's gonna really enjoy them when they get their babies this year. So our first North American rat snake is a species that some people actually don't realize are considered rat snakes, but they are. This is Humboldt, our eastern fox snake. And he's 6.5 years old, captive bred, and he is a really beautiful boy. He's not a huge snake, he's about 4 feet long, so he's actually a really great size. And I wanted to take these videos of him so calmly sitting there in his enclosure to demonstrate that he does sit still sometimes. Not often, but sometimes. He kind of goes from 0 to 100 and then back to 0, and there's not really much of a middle ground with him. So when I tried to take one-handed videos of him, it did not go so well. He was just constantly moving and trying to go to the ground or climb up on my shoulder. So I figured I would show you his beautiful face here when he's sitting so nicely. You can see that beautiful orange color that eastern foxes are known for. All along the body, it's kind of a more faded brown, and then towards their head and towards their tail are much more of an orangey brown with those beautiful black saddles. So Humboldt is our only fox snake, and we got him about 1.5 years ago as an adult. And I would say the one thing that really took us by surprise with him, and I don't know if this is an individual thing or if it is a thing with all fox snakes, but he takes quite a bit of food to maintain his weight. And we had him checked out, he's all healthy, there's nothing else going on, but he does take significantly more food to maintain a healthy weight than our other mid-sized rat snakes. So it took a bit of trial and error. We like to keep him just under 500 grams, which is about what he is in this video, which, you know, he looks lean and muscular, but not thin. So yeah, that took a bit of time to figure out, but now we've pretty much got him stable again. He is a great snake. He loves his food, but is otherwise really, really laid back. Like I said, he's quite busy and active, but not in a restless way. He just likes to move from spot to spot to spot and climb a lot and just poke around quite a bit. So he's really entertaining in his enclosure and really fun to interact with. when we're handling him, because he is moving constantly, but he's also not darting, and he's definitely not defensive. He's just kind of like a snake version of a puppy, really. He likes to go up and sit on our shoulders and just kind of hang out for a second and then start moving around. But yeah, fox snakes are awesome. If you can find them, they are really awesome snakes to keep. This is Amira, and she's our 3.5-month-old black rat snake. And I didn't take any videos of her because when we got her about a month ago, she got quite stressed out from the shipping process, and it was a totally normal shipment that arrived the morning after on time, and we got her straight into her home to settle in. But shipping occasionally can really throw off a young snake or a really stressy snake. So it can cause them to have some digestive issues, and she ended up regurgitating one of her first meals here. So she of course is in quarantine, but I don't actually suspect that she has anything wrong with her. She's now on her 4th meal after her regurg, and she's kept them down just fine. We've been building her back up slowly, but because she went through that stress, and because I am not fully confident that she's back on track yet, I do believe that she's fine and she will get there. But I do not interact with her except to feed her. She's very outgoing when she eats. She's very excited about food now, so she's feeling better, which is great. She's almost up to normal-sized meals, so probably in another couple meals or so she'll be back on track. But for now, I don't bother her. I am just letting her settle in, get some size on her, gain some confidence, and then hopefully we can get to know her a little bit better once she's back on track. Next up is our group of 4 Gulf Hammock rat snakes. Gulf Hammock rat snakes are usually considered a hybrid of yellow rats, which are now called eastern rats, and gray rats, which are now called central rats. So they're a naturally occurring hybrid, and these guys are captive bred. This is Luka. He is about 3 months old, and he is honestly, in my mind, the perfect Gulf Hammock. He has that beautiful, bold pattern that they're known for, and unlike some other North American rat snakes, they actually don't lose their pattern that they have as a baby. So as he grows, he'll keep this pattern, and the colors change slightly, not too much, but he'll keep this really bold, contrasting pattern as he matures. His parents were really beautiful mahogany and silver colored Gulf Hammocks, so I think he's going to be really stunning as he grows up. He already is, honestly. Luka has a really great personality. He is very curious, very confident, and pretty calm for a baby rat snake. He eats really, really well. He's actually growing at a pace that I haven't seen from a baby North American rat snake before. So we're going to have to see how big he gets. They do have the capability of getting quite large, although they're typically more around the 4 to 5 foot range. So we'll see where he gets. But this guy's somehow doubled his size since we got him on a fairly moderate amount of food. So he seems to think he's going to get really big and strong, so we'll see. But for now, I'm enjoying the baby stage because he is just really, really cute and a really nice boy to interact with. So this is his sister. This is Raven. Raven's also doing really well, although she is growing at a much more normal rate. She's gotten a little bit bigger since we got her, and she's filled in, and she has a really great appetite. She actually is super nice in this video. She was very cooperative, but she's had some real sass since we got her. She is usually up, essed up with her mouth open at us, and when I went to pick her up to take this video, when I initially got her out, she gave me about 6 bites before I even managed to pick her up. So she's really sassy within her enclosure, but as soon as she's out, she calms down really quickly. Now, of course, again, that sassy nature has led to a really great appetite. She strikes right off tongs. They both do, but she's just even more enthusiastic. She'll come chase down the food from across her tub. And she's just a really outgoing and very confident girl. So you can see her pattern isn't quite as strong as Luka's. It's just a little bit lighter. She's really beautiful too, though. And you'll see here, this is a bit of a different looking Gulf Hammock. Now, this is Saffron. She's our 4-year-old female that we got not too long ago. And Saffron is also captive bred. She has a bit of a different look, although I am a little disappointed with how the colors came out in this video because it really doesn't show the more subtle tones in her color. These two are much more reddish than some of the other Gulf hammocks that I've seen. Definitely more reddish than the parents of Luka and Raven. So Saffron's not quite as red, although in person there are some definite pink and red hues within her saddles especially. But you can see, you know, they're not huge snakes. She's probably about 3.5 feet long. But she's got a little bit of sass as well. It seems like female rat snakes in general are the ones that are going to have a bit of an attitude. But she's really calmed down since we've got her. She's tolerating more interaction. She has a great appetite. They're nice and healthy. You know, these guys are much more earthy looking, more natural looking, with more kind of subdued colors than some of the other snakes you see. But I've really grown to appreciate it. I really think that this more earthy color is a different kind of beauty that, you know, the closer you get to them, the more details you see. And they're really, really pretty without the super bright colors. You can actually see one thing I really love about Saffron in particular is right behind, on the back of her head, right at the top there, she's got these two little lacy looking patches. And they're really beautiful. In person, it just looks like each one of those scales is outlined in black. And it's a really cool little pattern that I've seen on some Gulf hammocks. Raven has a little bit of that too. But yeah, so these guys are 4 years old, and just over 4 years old actually. So we are planning on trying to pair Saffron and her mate Sumac, who will be the next snake I'll introduce. We'll try to pair them next year, see what happens. They've never been bred before. There you can see some of the red in her belly. Still definitely not showing up as well in a video, but regardless, even on the video I can see she looks stunning. So hopefully we'll have some little baby Gulf hammocks next year. They're really underappreciated snakes, even amongst the North American rat snake enthusiasts. I know the people who keep them and breed them seem to say this a lot, and I tend to agree after my firsthand experience with them now, that Gulf hammocks, even amongst the North American rat snake enthusiasts, are underrated. They're not appreciated as much as they should be because they're just stunning. They're really great, a really great size, and they do have some variety that's really interesting to look at. And here I'll show some more of that variety because this is Sumac. And Sumac is quite red, much more so in person yet. But he is a very different looking Gulf hammock very different from Luka and Raven especially, but even quite different from Saffron. He is much, much more red and has a much lighter pattern to him. And Sumac's a really nice boy. He, right from the beginning, has been really laid back, really calm, a little bit on the shy side. He hasn't really been super outgoing. They're still in quarantine, so they are in fairly minimal setups at this point. So I'm really hoping that they will show some more personality and become a little braver once they're put in a proper enclosure. But even with him being shy, he is always okay with being taken out and handled. He has a great appetite. He's just a really sweet boy, and I'm really looking forward to getting to know him. As you can see, again, not super big. He's probably closer to 4 feet, but they're fairly slender snakes and are actually a really nice size. We're planning on keeping them in 4x2x2s and maybe a little bit more height. We'll see. We haven't built the cages that they'll eventually go into, but we'll see how they interact with their enclosures, see what they prefer. This is new territory for us. We've never kept Gulf hammocks, but you know, in the couple months that we've gotten to know all of these guys, they seem like they're probably pretty outgoing, and they do seem to like to cruise around. Saffron especially likes to perch on top of her water bowl, so I do think they're going to want to climb a fair bit. So we'll try to give them as much as we can and see how they do with a more complex environment. Next up, we have a really special snake. This is Nera. She is our South Florida yellow rat snake. She is one of only 2 wild-caught snakes that we have. We have Calcifer, our northern water snake, that we caught ourselves as a very tiny baby. And Nera is about 6.5 years old, and she was caught by a breeder who specializes in locality North American snakes. So He didn't end up using her in his breeding plans, but he caught her as a subadult in South Florida, and we were able to give her a home, and boy, are we happy that we got her. She has such a personality. She is actually in the stack of cages that's in our living room, and it is really rare for us to not see her watching us. She likes to sit with her head lifted up off the ground, kind of periscoping at us and just watching everything that goes on. She's extremely nosy. Nosy Nera is what we call her. She's not a big snake. She's just under 4 feet long, possibly closer to 3.5. She really doesn't like being handled, so it was surprising how tolerant she was, but we really enjoy watching her within her enclosure, and as you can see, she's just stunning. Next up, we have our little male corn snake, Aldamir. Aldamir is a tessera Okeetee, and he is just a beautiful little boy. I know we did most of our morph snakes in the first North American rat snake video, but of course, you know, he is a morph. He's one of my favorites. That little stripe down his back, I just love the way he looks. His pure white belly and that lacy pattern down his side. He is incredibly pretty and is just getting prettier and prettier with age. He's just about 1.5 years old, which is kind of hard to believe because I feel like we just got him as like a tiny little worm. But he is growing up, he's getting there. He is super intense about food. Like, he's tried to swallow my finger before and was pretty adamant that that was going to fit in his belly. He's incredibly nice to handle, as you can see. He's very, very easygoing. He always has been, really. Even as a tiny little baby, we got him as a 10-gram baby. Even when he was so tiny, he was really, really easygoing. And really hilarious. I often call him my little clown. The way he acts is just really pretty quirky and very silly, but he just got upgraded to a nice sized grow-out enclosure that he's really enjoying climbing around his branches and basking under his overhead light, and he's really doing well with a more complex environment. So we should be moving him to his adult enclosure pretty shortly, actually. So that'll be fun. He's always so confident. I do like putting young snakes in larger enclosures when they have the confidence to handle it. And honestly, he could have probably gone straight into his adult enclosure as a 10-gram baby and been fine, but we just didn't have the space as we're trying to build everyone's cages. So he's been gradually stepping up in cage sizes and doing really, really well at every stage. But yeah, he's a healthy boy, he's a beautiful boy. I believe his dad was quite large, so I'm interested to see how big he gets. He is slower growing than our other North American rat snakes, which is pretty typical of corn snakes. They're definitely not the fastest, and you do have to watch their weight. He is a little chubby here. This is right when we made adjustments to his feeding schedule and let him kind of use up those extra resources and stretch out a bit more. So even since I took this video, he's definitely thinned out a little bit and gone through a bit of a growth spurt. It is a common myth that young snakes can't get fat. It's definitely not true. I've seen it firsthand many times. You do have to watch their food intake and balance what's going to give consistent growth without causing, you know, really fast spikes in increased body weight, or without causing them to plateau and need more food. So it's a bit of a balance, and corn snakes in general are a bit slower than other rat snakes, but he is certainly growing up all on his own here. Last but certainly not least is Kementari. She is Aldamir's future mate. She is an unknown lineage Okeetee corn snake, and she's no specific locality, no specific line that we know of, just a really, really pretty Okeetee corn snake. She's 4.5 years old. We actually initially had a different male that we were going to pair with her, named Mahal, but as we were watching the two of them grow up, we were really starting to notice that Kem was above average looking for an Okeetee, and Mahal was kind of a bit below average. He was still a very beautiful snake, a very sweet snake. But, you know, our first priority is producing healthy babies that are of species that will be in demand and that we will be able to find good homes for. But once those priorities are met, we do also selectively breed to try to produce snakes that are good representations of the species, or morph, or whatever. You know, we are trying to produce nice looking snakes as well. So, you know, as we were watching these two grow up, we were kind of starting to question whether we would just be producing some, you know, kind of average looking or maybe even below average looking corn snakes that we might have a hard time finding good homes for. So we ended up rehoming Mahal and waiting until we could find a male for Kem that would do her justice. So I feel like Aldamir is that snake. He is turning out to be incredibly beautiful, and we're very excited to see their babies. But that being said, Kem is now obviously of breeding age and Aldamir is not. So it probably won't be until 2023 at the earliest that we pair them. But in the meantime, giving those extra couple years to Kementari to develop and mature fully is definitely not a bad thing. And we love both of them to death as just pets. So regardless of breeding plans that are fairly far off in the future at this point, Kementari has always been a really fun girl to have around. You know, corn snakes are generally considered to be super docile and really laid back first-time pets, and that is true usually. Okeetees in general can have a bit of a reputation for having some more attitude, and Kem is no exception. She's always been a little bit sassy. She's lost the sassiness, I would say, now as she's gotten to the mature age, but when she was a juvenile, she definitely had a bit of fire in her. Nowadays, she's very easygoing, especially once you have her out. You know, initially getting her out of the enclosure, she can be a little bit dramatic, but it's really all show. She's incredibly easygoing on my hand, as you can see. She's not a big corn snake. She's probably right around 4 feet long, and I don't anticipate she's going to grow much bigger than this at this point. So she's an average sized corn snake. She's a little bit more shy in her enclosure than some of our other North American rat snakes, but I'll tell you, when you walk in the room and she is out, it's really hard to miss her. It's kind of like a neon orange streak up in her cage. She lives in a cage that's the highest in the stack, so she's right up on the ceiling there, and when you look up and you just see that beautiful sunset orange and yellow with the black saddles, it's unbelievably pretty watching her climb around her branches. So that's it for North American rat snakes. This is the end of the second part video. After this, I think I will probably do the Asian rat snake group, and then after that, there's just one more with all the miscellaneous colubrids. So hopefully I'll have the other video out fairly quickly. I have already taken most of the videos because a lot of those Asian rat snakes are already down for brumation, so I had to take the videos a little early and plan ahead. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the videos. If you have any questions or comments, I am happy to answer and happy to read. And I will see you guys again shortly with the Asian rat snake group.